Just when you thought it was safe to go back to the podcast, here's where shit gets real. It's the Attack of the Killer Podcast Awards Part 2, the best of 2021 horror, on this episode of Attack of the Killer Podcast.
Attention planet Earth and beyond. Stay tuned for Attack of the Killer Podcast. 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 Yay.
Welcome back, everybody, to Part 2 of our annual Attack of the Killer Podcast Awards. This is episode 252, and we are going to be discussing our top 10 favorite horror films of 2021. Each of us has come with our lists. If you listened to the last episode, we did our 10 through 6. So this is 5 through 1. If you've not listened to the episode, go back and listen to that one.
Shit,
no
really
spoilers.
is getting real.
It is.
Oh, I'm
it's
so
getting real.
excited.
This is where we separate the men from the boys.
Oh.
So you're leaving then. Oh.
The men are.
Where's that drum sound effect?
Here it is. I got it right here. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, this show is different than our normal show. What we normally do on this show is we're a horror movie podcast. We're a group of friends. We get together. We pick a topic. We pick movies within that topic, and we talk about those movies within that topic. We're all friends here. We speak openly and freely, so there's usually spoilers that happen. So this is usually the point of the show where I warn you there may be spoilers. There may be spoilers in this too, but we're going to try really, really hard since these movies are not very old. They're just all from this year of 2021. Well, at this point, not last year, right?
Right.
Yes. If you like the show and you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. You can become an attacker. An attacker is a supporter of the show that kind of helps us out, keeps the lights on and whatnot. And as a way of saying thank you, we give a ton of stuff back to you through you can get bonus episodes. You can get these episodes earlier than your coworkers.
Show them off to your friends.
That's right. And you can go to work the next day and have everybody hate you because you spoiled the episode for them. You could be the smug bastard that knows more about horror than they do.
Yeah, you could tell them Mike's number one favorite film of 2021 before they can even listen.
Exactly. But that's not all. You can also get our different YouTube series, such as Insane Mike's 1 Minute Top 10 list, video updates, killer critiques, all kinds of stuff. You can get physical items too, such as your own certificate and membership card and sticker. You can even get a t-shirt if you want. All kinds of stuff, so much more. Just go to jointheattackers.com, find the tier of the stuff that you want, and help support the show. That's jointheattackers.com.
We really should rename it to Tad's Video Update. That segment. There's a lot of them.
There is a lot of them.
Tad gets a lot of cool stuff, and you want to see it.
Yeah. So this is the part of the show. We've seen a lot of celebrities come and go during this award show. But it's time to introduce you to the 4 best celebs this show has to offer. It's time to introduce you to the podcast crew. He got as many votes as that actor by the name of Ty. They ended up giving the Oscar to him because the Academy refuses to acknowledge a tie win. Tad, everybody.
I'm still trying to get it, and I don't...
You lost, finally.
You don't want it.
Hi, guys.
Okay, see, I have this really funny joke about participation awards, but I guess you had to be there to get it. Jason, everybody.
Oh, man, so close. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening.
He won an award for the funniest knock-knock joke. It was called the Nobel Prize. Andy.
Hi. Hello.
And with us to finish out the top 10 of 2021, his film won an award at the Feline Butt Film Festival. One of the worst film festivals ever. No one wants to win an award at that festival. but he got his award in the mail today, and he's embarrassed when he opened it because it was a cat ass trophy. Dustin Neill.
Such a reach.
Oh my
That was great. Hey, everybody.
I thought if anybody would appreciate that one, it would have been you, Dustin.
He doesn't have to hear it every week, so
Well, yeah, and he got
I
the
used
he got
to.
the he got the gem of the bunch. You know,
cat ass trophy. Oh my goodness.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
We watch a lot of movies. We've watched a lot of movies this year that we're gonna be talking about our top 5 favorites of this year on this episode, and some of them we may have seen on some service, I don't know, called Shudder. Shudder is a great
Scolding
online streaming service for all things horror that you need to be a part of. Need it. If you want to watch some of these movies we've been talking about, you gotta get Shudder. Gotta do it. And you can get a free month of Shudder on us here at Attack of the Killer Podcast by entering our promo code AOTKP. Do that, get your first month free, get your fix in, and then you'll be hooked, and then you'll subscribe. So again, that promo code is AOTKP.
Yeah.
And now it is time for the award ceremony. We are going to be discussing our top 5 movies of 2021. This is exciting.
Oh my gosh. I can't wait. Before we do that though, what are some of the I don't know, things you learned about the last episode? Any shockers, any crazy things that happened? Too early to tell.
I would like to say that I thought some of my picks would be controversial just from the internet standpoint.
Right.
And honestly, y'all have been on my side, and it's been pretty comforting, and I've been way less stressed now because I'm thinking,
Good.
oh God, I'm going to have to explain myself for liking these movies, and I haven't really had to do that much. So thank you for that.
the night's young.
Yes,
true.
that's true.
5
Very
more
true.
chances to do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
To be honest, I'm kind of looking at the list from last episode, and I don't see anything really out of the ordinary. It seems pretty standard with what I know of all you guys.
well, we do have
I heard
good
a fried
taste, so
berry in there somewhere. That's pretty.
That
was
one
on
was probably
Andy's.
the biggest surprise for me.
Yeah.
Really?
Really?
But then
You
now
guys did not like it, or you just think
I
it's-
did. I just didn't think Andy would have it on his list.
Oh,
I
okay.
just
Mr.
I
49
really
moves.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I did too. I'm just saying, man. I think everything else I sort of expected.
And now I'm looking ahead at my top 5 list, and 4 of the 5 haven't even been talked about yet. So I'm pretty excited.
Oh shit!
You know,
3 out of my 5 haven't been talked about either,
That's
so that'll
awesome.
be interesting. Very interesting.
We're gonna get there, guys.
Any any films that anybody's mentioned so far that they haven't seen that they after the last discussion they want to see now?
something we watched since the last episode.
I want to see Last Night in Soho. I mean, that was on my kind of to-do list, but just I didn't get to it.
Same here. That's there's a lot that I haven't seen that has been discussed so far, but the for me the one that I did not know anything about that really intrigued me is Dustin's number 10 of Shadow in the Cloud.
Oh yeah.
I kind of want to I kind of want to check that out based on his description. So
I guess
I,
Sun on Jason's list. That's the one I haven't seen that he sold me on. So
And Lamb with You. That sounds amazing.
That's what I was just going to say. Lamb, it like disappeared off of streaming for some reason and went to like buy only. So
Yeah.
I'll probably just have to sail the 7 seas for that one.
Turn in my pop cans or something to get money for that.
okay, so I've mixed up the order on
shit.
on this one just for funsies. So we are going to start with our number 5s, and Dustin, you're going to start us off. What is your number
shit.
5?
I wasn't ready.
you were just excited to hear. We're all excited to hear Dustin's.
I know.
I know.
Well, maybe after this one, maybe. But number 5 blew me away again. I was super excited to watch this. I wanted to go to the theater so bad, but I just decided against it. I waited for it to come out on streaming. Number 5, Candyman. I thought this was so cool. I had been getting drips that, hey, this could possibly be a direct sequel to the first one, even though they are named the same. So we got a group together and we rented the early access off of Prime for like $20, and everybody chipped in a little bit, and we watched the first one, and then we watched this one back to back. Which
that's a cool way to watch them.
Yeah.
It was great, just because everything was so fresh in our minds that when the second one, or the Candyman, the new one, 2021, started to play, it was like, we know all these locations, we know these names, we're so familiar with these. But yeah, I mean, this is like David Cronenberg's Candyman. This is a body horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, if I mean, just to compare it, I mean, and if you disagree, that's great. I'm just saying, when I watched this, there was so many parts in this that just were gross, or like his body deteriorated throughout the movie. And yeah, Andy said it last episode, that was just gross. I mean, he's like turning into like this honeycomb flesh, with just it's bubbly, it's falling off. It looks so realistic. I thought for sure that his hand that was fucked was melting off, and that there was going to eventually be a hook underneath there. I thought that's what was going to happen, but
rot right off.
Right? Yes, just fall off, and there was just going to be a hook there. It's like he's really becoming Candyman. I loved everything about it, probably up until the last 10 minutes or so. It's kind of clunky at the end. It kind of feels like things get a little confusing as to who's where and what they're doing, and
it feels a little rushed.
It does feel rushed, and I would love to see, maybe like not unedited, but like a unrated or a director's cut of some kind that maybe makes that flow a little better, because I was confused.
Flesh it out a bit.
Yeah, I was kind of confused. Yes.
I
was kind of confused as to where people were in relation to each other and who was chasing who there at the end. It just kind of happened very quickly. But I thought some of the visuals in this, and I'm, not like high up on visuals. Sometimes there's like a movie, like I didn't like, what was it, Neon Demon a couple years ago.
Uh-huh.
Incredibly visual movie. Like I felt like it solely relied on that.
Right.
But Candyman has these great visuals, but with, I thought, was an excellent story of a continuation, or if you want to call it a soft reboot. I mean, I'm not sure how you feel about it, but it all worked very well, and to the point where I was impressed with just about everything that I saw. Acting wise, the way that it was filmed. There's a shot that might be my shot of the year, and I'm going to spoil this. It's a very wide shot of the main character was just in this apartment, I think with maybe his agent. Trying to remember now, but it's a wide shot of the outside of the apartment, and you can just see in her window, and she's just basically being smeared across the apartment. And I just thought that was so cool and terrifying at the same time. That, like, I knew as soon as I saw that part, I'm like, this is going in the top 10. That was too badass. It looked so good. But I don't know. And we've all kind of talked about Candyman throughout the last couple episodes, so I mean, I won't go on anymore, but that was definitely deserved to be in the middle of my my list at number 5.
Awesome.
Jason, what's your number 5?
Oh my gosh, I'm second. Okay, my number 5. Until I kind of forgot Candyman was a sequel. So I'm like looking at my list. I'm like, I don't really have a lot of sequels, which is really exciting for me every year. That a lot of them are original pieces. But Quiet Place Part 2.
Oh,
loved
the
it.
debut on this list.
It is first time we've talked about it. Directed John Krasinski. Based on characters by our little pals over there.
Yay!
And just the first one was incredible, and this one just gives you more of it. And it's just such a great little journey to go on. And I mean, it's been a while. I don't think I've watched it since it came out. May. So it's been a while. But yeah, I freaking love it. It's crazy. It's the first time it's come on this list, so must not be on your guys' list. Okay.
It made my top 21 in 21.
Mhm.
I love this as the first one and the second one as a together, like a binge.
Oh, yeah.
Because I love the beginning of this. I've said it a bazillion times on the podcast. I love a good breakout.
Yeah, watching
scene.
it happen.
Yes.
The way this movie starts is incredible for that.
Yes.
Oh
And
my god.
that satisfied. That was missing from the first one,
Yep.
and they put it in this one. So that's why I think, I always said like the first one, like, man, it's missing that breakout scene. You probably hear me talk about that in previous years.
Yeah.
And then they put it in this one. So that's why I think it works as a binge. You watch these both back to back together, and both solid for sure.
So a couple years later, it's nice to get a little John Krasinski back in the movie.
Yeah.
It was a nice way to kind of get him back in there, which I thought was awesome. This one's got Cillian Murphy. Yes, of course, he's been mentioned as a beautiful man by somebody's comment. I can't remember, but
Abe.
Of course it was Abe. Yeah. So I loved it, man.
So I'll just address what a question I have for you guys.
Mhm.
You and Mike, as someone who knows Beck and Woods from way back and are friends with them, do you view this as like, it's really cool that this thing they created now is this big, huge Hollywood, franchise, or do you feel like it's sort of, they birthed this thing and it was sort of like their baby and it was ripped from their hands, and now Krasinski is taking too much credit for it?
Well, personally, I always felt Krasinski's taking too much credit for it, but that's just
that's
just
why it's
because
not
they're
on
my friends. But I don't think the fact that if they are continuing with these films without Brian and Scott is a bad thing, because knowing those guys, they probably don't want anything to do with it. Just because they're not, their mission going out there to California in the first place was to, and I even heard it was, they've said it straight to people at like Skywalker Ranch of like in development meetings and stuff. It's like, we're not interested in doing any about these, other properties. We're not interested in doing sequels.
They've been offered
or
many
remakes.
sequels, and
Yeah. They want to continue to do original content. So I feel like I'm pretty sure they probably still get a nice little paycheck, because this is based on their property. But I think they're also probably perfectly fine. I don't know. I haven't really discussed it with them, but I'm pretty sure that they would be fine not being a part of the franchise.
Yeah, I'm beyond, just so happy for them.
Yeah.
That they got to do this, and I'm sure we've all heard a million stories of how you compromise in Hollywood, and if it was so that they had to not be directors to get this movie made, it's still, it's a tough decision to make, but I'm glad that we have this movie, of this series, and it's obviously still helped them a lot get to do more things. It did work for them, even though it's didn't end up really being theirs, to the noobs, to the main people out in the world that don't know. But
it's just because we live in a world where the writers are the last ones to get the recognition
for sure. So, but yeah, but to hear them talk too, John has always been really awesome through the whole process, and I'm sure they're tickled pink, and I'm just so happy for him.
I don't know. Maybe it's because I do know them and I know the situation, but I kind of always felt like when the first movie came out, I don't know. It's probably just me because I know them and they're from here. They're from Iowa, and so it gets talked about probably in our circles way more. But I don't know. It just always felt like as unknown writers, I felt like they got decent recognition for this movie. For the first movie, you know what I mean?
Because I'm sort of split. I felt like I don't even know these guys. I've met them, but I don't personally know them. And, I obviously didn't grow up making stuff with them like you guys, but oh man, I have a hard time taking that out, and it's like, no, being proud of them, and then it's like, oh, John Krasinski's making a sequel, and he's written himself into it, somehow brought himself back, and he's directing it now, and he's taking over the franchise, and now it's his. And I felt like he did like the press. Obviously, they're going to have him do the press tour. You never have the writers go out and do a press tour, but it felt like. I remember seeing him on like Fallon or something, and they were like, you wrote and directed this, the first one, and he never mentioned that he co-wrote it. And then I watched the sequel in the theaters, and they live streamed a Q&A from LA, and so it was before it played there in the theater, but it was after we played because they're 2 hours behind us, which was sort of interesting. But they asked him about like the sequel, and he said the first film was dedicated to like my kids, and the second movie is dedicated to my dad because he worked in like the steel mill or something. And it was like, wait, the first movie was dedicated to your wife and kids? You didn't come up with the idea, but I thought that was sort of weird, knowing that it wasn't his. But maybe I'm just putting too much personal bias in it, because I like the second movie, but I have a hard time putting it on my list because I'm sort of like, I don't know. I'm probably taking it more personal than they do. They're probably completely content with the idea that they'll keep making paychecks and get to do what they want now. So I don't know why I hold a grudge on John Krasinski, but fuck you, John Krasinski.
Oh my god!
I'm just kidding. Like one of the nicest guys in Hollywood.
Right.
Go after him.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and I don't want to speak for Scott and Brian, but just knowing those guys and listening to them talk, with them being on different panels and stuff at cons that we've been to lately, I just get the feeling, and maybe it would be great to sit down and really pick their brains on it. And
hint, come on a guess.
But I feel like they were out there long enough to understand how things work out there, and are level-headed enough to be like, well, we got to do this, and it's opened the door for this, and so great.
Might not be this one, but the next one will.
And that could be part of me personally talking too, because it's like, when we made Collapse, I had a lot of people, ask me like, how come you say it's not your movie, that you don't own this movie? Why can't you show this movie and blah, and do this and do that? And I'm like, well, because we were hired to write and direct it, it's not our property, and I'm not bitter about that, because it was a great opportunity. So I feel like that's kind of been their mentality too, but
maybe
that might be part me projecting too. I don't know.
No, maybe they're stoked that they didn't get stuck doing because you can get stuck doing that, and you just become the guy who does that thing. That maybe they don't want to be stuck being the Quiet Place guys.
This is true too. Yeah, that's a good point.
Haunt was awesome. I hope they're working with Adam Driver. Maybe I shouldn't sympathize with them. So good for them.
Yeah, just at the end of the day, I'm really always excited and proud of them. And
it's good to see good people make it. So
yes,
yeah,
and you don't get better than them too. They're really good guys. Where are we?
Who's up, man?
Number 5 for the next person,
which would be you, Tad.
Most of my movies that are left have been talked about, so I'll be quick. Antlers, I saw it in the theater.
Yay!
I didn't have much anticipation going into it, other than it had been pushed back to the point where I almost forgot it existed.
Yep.
And it made a little tiny, drip in the theaters. It didn't make a splash. It was like, it's here. I think it came out the same week as something else much bigger. It seemed like they pushed that and Last Night in Soho out like, I think in November, like I think the same weekend as like Dune or something. It was just like, what are we doing here, guys? It was a bad idea, and you hold on to it for so long and then put it out for it to flop is just a bummer, because it deserves so much more. I really, really love this. Seeing it in the theaters probably enhances the experience for me, but I want to rewatch this as soon as I can. It was scary. It was cool. monsters and violence and a family drama and great performances all around. I don't hear enough people talking about this one, so go see Antlers.
Monsters in the Woods.
Yeah.
Sweet. Andy, number 5 for you.
Okay, my number 5 is aptly titled because it is called Vicious Fun.
Oh.
Basically, the premise about this is about a kid who writes for a magazine, which is the same title as the movie, and it's a horror magazine. And he believes that the girl that he's crushing on is, dating a slime bag. So he follows him to this bar, which he initially gets very, very drunk at, and then he wakes up there and he stumbles on to a meeting, kind of like a 12-step meeting or an AA meeting for serial killers. And one of them is David, I hope I'm saying his last name right, Koechner?
Koechner?
I've always said
Anchorman.
Yeah, I've always said Ketchner.
I've always said Keckner, but
anyway,
Champ Kind.
Yeah, Champ Kind. And Robert, I think his last name is like Canadian, Robert Millay. He played the big vampire for 2 seasons in The Strain.
The big motherfucker.
Yeah. And but anyway, this movie is freaking hilarious. The one-liners in it. I mean, it's very, very. He basically this horror magazine writer who's very young and he's crushing on this girl. He has to pretend that he's this killer, and he has this premise for this fake movie called Taxi Cab. Well, it ends up being called Taxi Cab Driller, but he thinks that he's going to be this screenwriter that's going to write the next great horror movie. And basically he takes the premise of his movie and that's how he describes himself. He's this taxi cab killer who like kills all his fares, But anyway, any one of these people in this 12-step group, this girl whose name I can't remember,
Carrie.
That's right. She's basically she's setting out to kill all the serial killers, and
she's like a vigilante.
Yeah. And anyway, the douchebag, the whole time that he went and followed there to this restaurant where they're having this thing in the middle of the night, he's also a serial killer too. So now he's got to stop them, and it's a big kind of clusterfuck, and it's very, very funny. And I think I mentioned in one podcast that the lead guy, Bob, who he basically reminds me of like a douchier version of Jake Paul, and which is no small feat, by the way. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's gory. The kills are good, and a lot of the serial killers have a lot of character. So definitely check it out.
Evan Marsh that played Joel, the lead, was really, really good. He was really funny.
Yeah.
I liked all the characters. It fell apart a little bit, to me, when they figured him out. I was like, oh shit, it's going to hit the fan now, and it lost a little steam for me, but I had a lot of fun with this one.
Same here. I loved this movie. It'll definitely be coming back into the discussion later for me. But I really loved. Man, yeah, I'm with you. My favorite stuff there is right there towards the beginning when they're in the support group, and you meet all these killers, which are like just some great satire and parodies of stereotypical killers in movies. You got your big hulking guy that likes to kill kids at summer camps.
Yeah.
You got the very much like a Yakuza hitman type of guy. You've got the clown killer guy, and then of course, man. But first of all, I hate the IMDb trivia on this because it's blatantly obvious when they talk about the one guy who he wears a clear rain jacket just like in American Psycho. He does this just like in American Psycho. Well, guess what? This character is blatantly obviously a parody of American Psycho.
Yeah.
And I freaking loved him, and I loved all the little American Psycho nods that were going on. And
It, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, you're
it
fine.
also helps me tremendously from the get-go that it's got a great 80s synth soundtrack, and it takes place in 1983 as well.
yeah, and I for the longest time I'm like, why is this a period piece? Why is this in the 80s? But probably just because the filmmakers like that. Because the whole movie is just homage to all that stuff. I mean, was it just me, or did you guys feel like the whole second half of the movie was very much an homage to Assault on Precinct 13?
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I mean the whole movie's
saw
a
that.
love letter to classic horror, and not just from the score to all the stereotypes on the killers, but just the guy being like a horror magazine podcaster type character. I mean, podcaster before podcasters were podcasters. He's like a Fangoria writer, basically, and that's where the title comes from, because he's trying to pitch his movie, or he's trying to get an interview with this sort of Jason Blum-like character and telling him he can do better, and ends up using that premise to convince these people in this meeting that he is. But I think this movie so heavily relies on that lead performance from a guy I've never seen in anything, and he kicks ass. I loved him.
He was
I
great,
thought
yes.
I thought he was so good. Like, I want to see him in something else now, because that's not an easy role. He's very Marty McFly, not just with the vest, but with his sort of funny but also worried all the time, playing it off, and sort of the funny loser but likable. Like, you know what I mean?
You're
Like,
rooting for him.
yeah, absolutely, the whole time, because he cannot win. His hot roommate that he likes, he can't even like speak to her without fumbling on his words, and he accidentally ends up at the spot. Everything just sucks for this guy, and you just want one win for him.
Yeah.
And I know I haven't done this in a while, but line of the movie, "Oh my fucking cock and tits," is when he gets that that knife thrown at him. That is gold. That is so damn good.
Yeah, it's freaking hilarious.
So this kid is in Shazam, which I haven't seen.
Oh,
That's the only thing I
remember
really
him in that.
Yeah, he plays Burke Breyer. But
Must
that's
be
the
a
only
bully or something.
It's the only character I recognize, or only movie I recognize on his IMDb. But I will definitely check him out in coming stuff, because I thought he did so good.
Excellent. My number 5. Again, I feel like, with my number 6, this is really stretching it to be on a horror list, but I don't care. My number 5 is Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about
Ghosts, come on.
Yeah, it's got ghosts, and I'll tell you, it
It's
feels
hard
like,
to argue.
It feels like there's moments in this movie that the stakes feel higher than they were in the original Ghostbusters movie. So, to say it has roots in horror, I'm perfectly fine with that. It was a lot of fun, great homage to the previous films, and just again talk about the fan service the whole time. Like when Brandy and we saw it in the theater, and any little nod, we're like hitting each other in the arms, being like, "Oh, that's the thing from Ghostbusters." I love how
people.
What's that?
Said you're those people.
We're 100% those
Oh,
people.
God.
We sat next to too many of them at Spider-Man. Like,
Well, we weren't loud and obnoxious about it.
I know, I'm just joking. I'm a buzzkill. Like, yeah, we all got it. Okay, we saw the Halloween 3 masks and Halloween Kills. Okay, we get it.
One of my favorite little inside nods to the movie is when they show off Egon's spore and fungus collection.
Oh yeah,
Such a throwaway joke from the first movie, and they make it a thing in this one. I just thought that was awesome. But
I was expecting a straight and slinky.
yeah, that's true. That would have been cool too. But that's my number 5. So we can move on to our number 4s. So back to Dustin.
Yeah, I watched this one today,
Oh shit.
believe it or not.
I don't believe it.
You just better. I was so impressed with it. I wasn't expecting much. It was the last one I watched, and it really just I I was just really impressed. My number 4 is Meander. It's a French foreign film. And I hate saying this, but I feel like it's the only way that you guys and the audience will understand what it's kind of like, but it's kind of like Cube in a way. It's about this girl who's she's in a way, it seems like she's somewhat suicidal. I mean, the first scene is her laying in a road, and she gets picked up by this hitchhiker who is, she's hitchhiking. He picks her up, and they converse a little bit on the road. The radio comes on, and the radio explains there's a killer on the loose with a cross on his hand. She looks over and sees the cross on his hand, and he slams on the brakes, and her head hits the dashboard. Lights out. Then she wakes up in this small, confined area with this interesting jumpsuit on. And like Cube, she goes to these areas and basically avoids traps. It's gory, it's confusing, and it's fucking fun as hell. I do not want to ruin this for you guys, because if you like Cube in any way, you're gonna love Meander, and that's why this one jumped up high on my list, because I'm a fan of the first Cube movie, and there's a couple other ones that are pretty good too. But this was just, I thought it was well shot. But basically, she's stuck in a tube or a crawl space pretty much for the entire movie, crawling from one disaster to the next. And it's just well shot, well acted. And I had a pretty good, satisfying ending to it as well, for me anyway. But again, I would ruin this had we all seen it. But since you guys, I don't think you guys probably got a chance to see this one. You've got to check it out. I thought it was excellent.
Huh.
Adding it to the list.
Well, if you say so.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Meander. How do you say that in French? Meander.
I don't know.
Meander. Oh.
There you go.
That's what makes it French.
Je want un bâton.
Oui, oui.
Okay. I don't think any.
So quick, Jason, what's your number 4?
My number 4, believe it or not, is a French film. I'm being serious. I did want to say that my top 4, though, as I look at it longer and longer, I think these top 4 I could probably put in any order. Like, they're really close to me, I think.
Yeah, I'm switching mine around every time
Gosh, dang
I
it.
look at them. So,
but I like that it's still up here, and it is a French film. It is has the name of another movie from the 70s. It's an animal attack film called The Swarm.
See, I saw that on the master list, and I'm like, oh, surely it's not a Killer Bee movie. I thought maybe it was just a clever title, but so it's a Killer Bee movie?
No, it's yes, but it's locusts. A single mother breeds locusts as high protein food, but has trouble getting them to reproduce until she finds that they have a taste for blood.
Nice.
And this movie's fucking awesome. It's on Netflix, so it's pretty easy for everyone to see. It's super simple, and the cast is pretty great. They're I don't know if I want to make Nats now. This movie's so good.
No, you got to make Nats.
I know, but I thought
saying-
about Nats this whole time during this. It's just like they do such a great job of showing the bugs and making them gross and icky and cool.
But that's what Nats.
know,
what makes
I
Nats
know.
cool is that we don't show the bugs because they're too small to film. They're Nats.
But there's maybe a few moments that it's like CGI. Maybe. I mean, I guess they have to be, just because you can't make a swarm of something to do what you need it to do on camera. But for the most part, you're really watching real bugs do real things. And there's some creepy fucking shit in this. And the gore, when there's gore, and there is fucking gross and awesome. And I mean, really great. And I loved it. It was just, I didn't expect to. I've never seen the original, so I don't have that to taint anything but I'm sure it's nothing like it, just in concept, but yeah, I can't say enough about it. I've tried to get you guys to watch it, but
Wow, a killer bug movie in 2021, and it's this high on your list.
yeah, man,
I've got to freaking see it.
that's
man.
what I'm saying.
You know, I love animal attack movies.
You do, and this is definitely an animal attack. Oh my God, there's this one. I can't say. Okay, but go ahead. That's mine. The Swarm is so good.
A lot of buzz around it.
Hey, there it is. He's back.
Where's that drum thing?
I ain't using it on that. Oh.
Okay, Tad, what's your number 4?
My number 4 has been brought up. Another movie I saw in theaters and loved. Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho.
Yeah.
So cool. Another one I had really anticipated for so long and pushed back. And Edgar Wright hasn't missed, man. Every one of his movies is awesome. And he continues that. I was a little worried that he would, deviate from his comedy and it wouldn't be good. But so far he's showing he has range and he can do just about anything, documentaries to comedy to this, which is a psychological horror. And the lead performance was great. I guess the lead performances were great. Great soundtrack. One of the best soundtracks in years.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's starting to rival Tarantino on like using music, just fantastic stuff. So, if you don't like the movie, which I don't know why you wouldn't, at least give the soundtrack a spin, because it's like 60s British movie or music, and it's a ton of fun.
Can I ask something? I've seen this as well, but for you guys, did this feel like an Edgar Wright movie? Because if you just watching it, because I like for everything he's done before, even non-horror, like Scott Pilgrim and stuff like that. This, to me, watching camera style, way it was shot, did not feel like Edgar Wright. If you would have told me it wasn't him, and just some other director, I'd probably be like, okay, because it just doesn't have those zoom in shots, those quick transitions, and maybe it doesn't need them because of the way the content of the movie, but it just doesn't feel like it's shot the way that it's paced like an Edgar Wright movie. I don't know. Does anybody disagree or agree with that?
I can see what you're saying. It doesn't have a lot of his trademarks.
I thought there
they're
was
just gone.
I
They're
thought
just
there was
gone.
enough of the editing that gave me some of the feels. I mean, it's not heavy-handed in any of his dot points of style, but I thought the editing wise, I guess I felt there was enough there to give it a feel of his.
Okay. Well, I really tried to get into this. I really tried because I love Edgar Wright. I have every one of his movies, and this just didn't. I guess I wasn't feeling it. I don't know, and maybe I was overhyped for it because I think we watched it as soon as it came out on streaming. Mm-hmm. I loved the trailer. When I saw the trailer, I'm like, this looks really good. And then I think maybe the trailer ruined a lot of things that I might have been excited about because I was waiting for all the stuff that I saw in the trailer to happen in the movie. And it was just, there was not a lot of surprise for me, I guess. I think it's well shot. I think it's well acted. And I agree. Everything that Tad said about the soundtrack, I just, there were no surprises for me, and I just really wasn't surprised by the ending. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it was just me not getting it, getting into it. So help me change my mind, make me like it.
Well, I think maybe I going into it not watching trailers helped me because I was completely surprised by things. I knew who was in it,
same.
and I knew who directed it, and I knew about it was a psychological horror. But what's strange is that the thing I kept seeing, I was trying to avoid stuff I kept seeing was them comparing it to Italian horror films, and when I watch it, I'm other than color or gels, no, like this isn't Argento film. This is
I didn't get that either.
No, I think people just associate him with like if you have neon pink in your movie, you're suddenly ripping off Suspiria. It's like this has nothing to do with that. I mean, maybe like the mirror stuff, where she's seen, no spoilers, seen sort of the other version of herself in the mirror. But that's such a stretch to be like it has colors and mirrors. It's Dario Argento inspired. Like no, that's
At the same time, I'm sure we could all agree that like you don't have a director doesn't have to check off all his boxes for it to. It doesn't have to follow those same
well, I feel like
things to
maybe
to make a good movie.
I think this one he really wanted to like sort of get away from that. Like, there's no real cameos from his normal cast and crew he throws in. There's no almost no humor in this. I just feel like he almost wiped the slate clean, and he was like, I'm going to do the unexpected and not fall into what you expect from me, which I could appreciate.
And that's what I like about Edgar Wright, though. I like it because he has this style. I like it because he's got like this Sam Raimi type zooms and transitions that, like, for somebody like me who is a fan, are looking for those things. And when you're not doing those, I feel like it's just like everything else. I'm not saying this is like everything else, but I don't want him to slip away from what made me love his movies. And I guess, for somebody like me who was looking for that thing, which is those types of things, just a little disappointed is all.
Sure. I still saw a fucking masterful directing job when it came to the cinematography, because I think a lot of those shots where the new and the old were at the same time, in the mirrors, out of the mirrors. Like, I feel like, it felt very practical, and a lot of those were long shots.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like the choreography alone to make those work, I'm sure pushed him and challenged him in a way. There's no way we could ever do anything like this. So it felt very masterful. I was watching a master director shoot this concept in for real, practically, and that was really fun to watch, those long choreographed dancing shots and through and out the mirrors and the time and all in these takes, and I liked that about it a lot too. Yeah.
Sweet. Andy, what is your number 4?
My number 4, it's already been mentioned once before in the list, and to me it's just a hell of a lot of fun, and it came out very early in the year, and it's Psycho Goreman. Gotta love my
Yeah.
I gotta love my hunky boys, man.
Hell yeah.
When I first watched the trailer, I was just like, I went and got my wife. I was just like, my wife is gonna dig this. Normally she doesn't really, like horror movies, but she's just like, I'm like, honey, we need to sit down and watch this. I think you'll get like a kick. And the wife really liked it too. So, not really much more to say than what's already been said. I mean, other than some people didn't mention the dad in this, I think is
He's
hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, he makes like one chicken dinner out of the year, and he thinks he's like father of the year. He's just like, you're welcome. It's just like, what a bum, But
Doing my best.
yeah. But Psycho Goreman and just like the the council up in space, you're just like, we don't know what the fuck to do. We're like totally fucked, Just the whole I guess the whole universe that they created. I mean, I think it was so well crafted and just and so unique. All down to like the bounty hunters that are supposed to come down and get him, to like that I don't know, that blood slosh monster guy or whatever. I mean, just all of it is just so very unique, and the whole universe is it's so much fun.
Don't forget about the friend who has been transformed and it
Into,
is that way.
Like a walking brain, yeah.
Yeah, so good.
Like Meat Zilla from Aqua Teen Hunger Force or whatever. Yeah.
So good.
But yeah, and the one-liners in there is just like, I'd feel a lot better if you were dead, and just, I mean, great stuff. But yeah, Psycho Goreman, if you don't like this movie, dude, Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I gotta say to
Oh
that.
my.
My number 4 definitely Psycho Goreman.
Excellent. My number 4, which has also been brought up before, is Malignant.
Yeah.
Yay.
Man, yes, I do love this movie, and I definitely love the comparisons to Basket Case because that's exactly the same thing I thought of when we get to that moment. And I didn't have like any spoilers or anything, but the anticipation was there of like, the third act goes freaking bonkers. That's
Yes.
what I
Oh
kept
my
hearing,
gosh.
and so I'm prepared for it. I'm prepared for a bonkers third act, but it still got me.
Still.
It still got me. So, yeah, it was great. I'm with you. I want to see more from this universe, and I love how when that moment happens, and the body contorts and stuff,
Oh.
and it's so cool. It's so cool. It's so
Unforgiving at that point. Like
Yes.
there's just no hold bars.
It's
Yep.
not a tumor. It's like Quado on the back of her head.
Yeah.
So yes, Malignant, definitely one that needs to be in the collection for sure. Freaking great. We are moving on now to number 3, though.
Top 3.
Top 3. Here we go.
Oh.
Dustin, what is your number
Oh, I'm
3
so
film
excited.
of the year?
These next 3 are probably definite buys from me. Number 3, went in blind, only knowing who was involved, and absolutely loved it. Was Night Books on Netflix.
It was
That
fun.
was good.
You want
It
to
was-
talk about introduction to horror for your kids? It's Night Books.
Oh,
And they won me over probably about like 6 times in the movie. I'm like, okay, all right, cool it. You've got me. Like they just kept
Yeah.
going and going with these nods and homages. And the thing is, it's, like when you watch like a Pixar movie and you've got like the stuff that's for kids, but then they do something that's like maybe like borderline like PG-13 in the background that like, that was for the parents. Well, like that's what Night Books is that it's got like the kids and the spooky stuff, but then there's like, an Evil Dead shot. Then I was going to say who was involved. It's Sam Raimi produced and Rob Tappert produced. So
Yeah.
there's
Really?
so much like there's so many scenes that are just right out of Evil Dead, and
Lots of Lost Boys too.
Oh, that's the thing. That's why they were like winning me over. Like they do like a rendition of Lost Boy, Cry Little Sister in it. That's
Yep.
just so perfect. And this was so much fun. I'm like, if I had kids and they were getting to that age, this right here is perfect. We always talk about like,
Totally.
we could probably like Gremlins. We could probably do something like that, and your kid might or may not be. It's might be a little too spooky. But Nightbook uses old fairy tales like Hansel and Gretel as the biggest fairy tale they go off
Yeah.
of, and base it around pretty much. So it involves a witch capturing children in their house, and they have to basically this kid that they've caught. He tells stories. But he just recently given up stories because he had a kind of like a tussle with his best friend who is no longer interested in that. And so he has to tell the witch a scary story every night. And when I first watched this, I thought this was going to be an anthology film. And this kid was just the wraparound story. And he was going to tell his story and it would go into it and then it would come back.
Yeah, I
And
thought it was going to be Tales from the Dark Side almost.
Right,
you know?
exactly. And there's definitely some Tales from the Dark Side vibes. It doesn't do that. It does it maybe just a little bit, but it is exclusively this boy's story throughout the entire movie. So he's trying to write stories and also trying to figure out how to get out because this house is kind of moving through like space and time. It's just really interesting. Like I said, it's cool enough because your kids could watch it, and cool enough because it has those excellent nods from from Evil Dead. And I just want to say one real quick here because it was so great. But if you've seen Drag Me to Hell, I mean, Sam Raimi in that movie just has something great about that witch and throwing up. There is a witch in this one, and it does throw up, but it throws up candy all over them. But it's a replacement for gore, but it worked so well that you're just like, yeah, shaking your fist in the air when it's happening because you know it can't be blood or it can't be like gross stuff. It's got to be for kids, so they make it work. I feel like in all the parts of the movie, it's definitely worth a watch, and that's why it's so high up on my list.
I agree. The wife and I watched it because the wife started watching it, and she's just like, "If this is on your list, I'm not gonna. We need to watch this together." And the thing is about this kid that tells the stories, my heart just went out to him. I felt so sorry for him. You almost want to grab this kid and hug him and tell him that it's going to be okay.
You will find your kind.
Yeah, because it's just like because like being horror fans and just we're so passionate about this genre. You feel like he's one of us. You just want to hug him and tell him that it's going to be okay. It's just like you have your people, kid.
Yeah,
and it's. It's I agree with Dustin on this 100%. It's well worth the watch, and it's great intro for kids.
Man, it's another one I've never even heard of, and in fact, it was
Netflix.
Yeah,
yep.
I'm gonna definitely have to watch it. It's directed by the same guy who did Brightburn.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna pronounce his last name. Very cool. Okay. Man, Dustin's giving me all kinds of goodies to watch. So Jason, what's your number 3?
Well, speaking of Dustin, remember earlier in maybe it was last episode when he's like, people and how they suck sometimes. Well, I mean, it's happened with Malignant, man. Third, I fucking love this movie so much. It's so goddamn awesome. And anyone who can't have fun watching this fun movie can get fucked. I'm sorry. I'm just, god dang, this movie's great. And just come off it if you can't deal with this. It's so
Their
fucking
opinion's
good.
wrong.
It is wrong. It just is. This movie is so great. It's my number 3, man. Oh, gosh, I'm so glad you guys liked it.
Yes.
Oh, thank. I've been waiting all day.
Had to get it out.
I did. Oh, I got to see it in the theater, and and like these a-holes that you're talking about are in the theater with me at the time. They're just like,
oh boy.
Not necessarily with me. I can just tell that I'm the only one in the theater like fucking loving this. And I'm like hooting and hollering probably because I do. But I'm just like, I can't believe not everyone's cheering with me. This is so gosh dang fun. Anyway, I loved it. So good.
If I was there with you, buddy, I'd have been cheering.
Oh, dude. So fun.
Okay, Tad, what about you? What's your number 3?
Man, I think this might be the most controversial call yet. Because
he's using a serious voice, Mike.
He's pulling a fast one. He's so full of crap.
I am pulling a fast one because you guys don't throw things at me. Don't be angry. This is something I didn't anticipate being on my list when I went into them. But I'm putting the whole Fear Street trilogy as number 3.
All right.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
That works good as a great like unit. 1, 2, and 3.
I think
it really does.
I really think you can't have one without the other. And I don't want to take 3 spots with it. I enjoyed the
Mike
fuck
was
out of
having
these.
the same.
That was these.
I didn't know if I could do that, but
And I was gonna say, if you're gonna make me pick one, I would probably just say the first one. But you can't have the first without the second and the third, and you can't have the third without the first. You can't have one without the other 2. So I'm just throwing them out as a trilogy as one thing. And I love the fuck out of these. This was so cool. They're so easily digestible. They're just you turn off your brain. Yeah, you just turn off your brain and enjoy some good old slashers. And they had these cool ass characters that were killers that came back, and
yeah, for being complicated, it really wasn't that complicated. It
No,
was
and
really
it-
fun to sit down.
And it was sort of cool, like the opposite of Malignant, where I'm like, I was at Target and I see like one of my friend's older sisters who has like a bunch of kids now, like teenagers, and she's like, I know you probably like, will turn your nose up at this, but like, have you seen the Fear Street movies? I'm like, oh, I fucking love them. She's like, my kids are obsessed. And I'm like, that's so cool that like teenagers can be obsessed. And me at 36, I can love them too. Like, it's just, it's nice. It's like ushering a new generation into that, it's like our Scream or something where, it's relying on those old stereotypes. And we had one for like 90s and we had the 70s, and then it wraps it up so perfectly in a bow at the end. I love this trilogy. I love what they did. It's so cool to have 3 of them. And I almost prefer the way, and I'm a big proponent of the theater, but the way that, Netflix bought these and from Fox, I believe, who, got bought by Disney, and Disney was like, we don't want these movies, so who wants them? They sold them to Netflix. And Netflix was like, let's just put one out every like Friday, wasn't it? And
Episodically, yeah.
Yeah,
that's so great. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if this would have worked. Like, if you try to put like one out every 6 months or one a year in theaters, I don't know how they plan on doing this, but I think, it was a happy accident doing it, on Netflix, and hopefully they see that too, and they're like, let's keep doing these. It don't have to be the same cast or crew or stories. They can just use this as like an overall like umbrella of Fear Street and just keep making them, man.
But answer this
That would
one
be
question: how did they afford the music?
No shit.
Like,
Well,
so real.
Fox, everybody was jumping on like, I can't believe Netflix did this. Like, Netflix just bought it from Fox. It was already filmed, edited, everything was done.
Oh.
Wow.
They just threw a bunch of money, and Fox, or I guess Disney now, since they're owned, they were just like, we don't know what to do with this. We have this trilogy of movies we're sitting on, and I imagine Netflix got a pretty good deal on them. And like, the music, I don't know how you get the clearance every 30 seconds. There's another major hit,
Major
Yeah.
song.
Yeah. Like top
That's
40
unreal.
radio for like, almost a 30-year span.
It's
Yeah.
almost
Believe
too
it.
much.
Yeah, it kind of was almost.
Is it too early to tell? Like, do you think this will ever happen again? Do you think we'll ever get anything like this in this capacity to where you've got a full-on trilogy fleshed out, all ready to go, and then we'll get them like every other week or whatever they came out at? Like, I mean, I feel like it's I think we need to recognize it, that this might be maybe the first and last time this ever happens in this way.
At this level, yeah, because I mean, we get sort of like that with miniseries or with, I mean, it's only an hour and a half. It's like, a long episode of series, one every week. But like you said, it's not going to be as epic as this, because with the music and these are full on features, so.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I grew up on a steady diet of R.L. Stein. He's probably the reason I'm sitting here talking to you guys, is because of the Goosebumps book. So,
Scary stories told in the dark,
Yeah, and so these are right up my alley, up my Fear Street. So
super unique writing, just to tell it backwards while using the same cast.
yeah,
It was
so
so
cool.
neat.
have it
So
have it
neat.
make sense.
And it really
just-
did.
Yeah. How everything was
Sort of
so
reminded
well
me
tied
of
together.
How good American Horror Story used to be.
That's kind of, I wondered.
Yeah, I
It
liked
had-
this series a lot too, and I debated on putting it in my top 10, but I couldn't decide. Do I just
So one
put it
spot,
on as one, be brave like Tad and just do it, or split it up to 3? And I felt like I don't want to take up 3 spots with this. But yeah,
That's
so
good.
definitely some of the best of the year. It was definitely a lot of fun. So, Andy, what's your number 3?
My number 3 has also already been mentioned on this list once before. I love this anthology series, and it's VHS 94.
Aha.
Right on.
It's so good. I mean, I think I may like VHS 2 slightly better than this one, but this one is very, very well done, and it's it's leaps and bounds above viral. But
Yeah.
which then again isn't really saying much. But I tell you what, this is a damn good horror anthology. I don't know what else needs to be said. All of the stories I thought were strong. I mean, they weren't perfect, but they all really, really delivered. And VHS 94 is my number 3.
We want more. Shudder, bring us more.
Yeah.
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 Feed us more.
So my number 3 is I'm gonna tell you right now, it's honestly the one I've been the most excited about to talk about this whole time. For one, this is what one of the cool things I like about this thing that we do with the year-end episodes is discovering movies that I probably would have never discovered if it wasn't for us doing this. And I'm not talking about just like the stuff on the list. Like if I start going down a rabbit hole of like, well, what else is out there for 2021 besides the 100 that we have on the list? And I found one because my problem is list all the stuff I wanted to see, I didn't have access to and didn't want to spend the money on. And then some of the stuff that I did have access to, I'm like, this does not look like it would interest me at all. So I just started looking. I was on Prime and just looking for any movies that I can watch with Prime that came out in 2021, and I stumbled upon a movie that ended up being my number 3 on the list. Just a random discovery, and I'm so excited about it. It's called Untitled Horror Movie.
Oh,
Yeah.
It is. Has anyone else
good.
seen it?
yes.
I mean,
Everybody but Ted.
I didn't see the list.
I think everybody jumped on because of your recommendation.
Yeah,
right?
that's the power
That's cool.
you
It was
hold.
good.
Cool.
It's
Nice.
really good.
Yeah, I loved this movie. It really, at first, it reminded me of what was it called? What was that one? Host. Yes, thank you. That was out last year, because it's all done through Skyping, and it's about these very much this group of satire, like stereotypical, Hollywood wannabe actors, Hollywood actors, and whatnot. That's just. They're not good people, and what I found fascinating is that here's a cast of unlikable people, but I liked them. I was.
They treat each other like shit, dude.
I know, but
They're so below the belt with everything they say.
I think between the performances and the overall comedy and everything of it, that I did not hate these people. I know they're not good people, but I was interested in their stories. So, but this is just such a great satire and parody of the found footage genre and where it's going with stuff like, Skype, these Skype movies like Host and whatnot, and such a commentary on like Hollywood mentality. Oh man, I have not laughed out loud to myself while watching a movie in quite a long time. But that scene, one of my favorite scenes, is shit's starting to get real, and it takes a little while before like the real horror stuff happens. But everything is I felt was set up so nice to get to that point, and I was invested all the way. And I'm not going to say a slow burn because it wasn't. These characters were endearing in their own little nasty ways, and just really funny. But the funniest part for me is when the shit is really starting to hit the fan and the one guy spills his milk and he's more upset about the spilled milk. I was dying. He's like, oh man, I spilled my milk. Meanwhile, like, people are getting thrown around by ghosts and shit.
It stepped in my sock.
Yeah, it's cracking me up just even thinking about it. So that is definitely the discovery for me for the year, man. This is Untitled Horror Movie. Not my number 1 spot, but just my favorite discovery of the year, my own personal discovery.
It's a gem. It really is.
Yeah, definitely worth a watch. And it's not, it's only like I think an hour and 20 maybe. So it's a quick view as well, but it's definitely well worth it. It wasn't at all what I expected when I clicked on it either.
Me neither.
Nope. And like you said, like it starts out with this giant hill to climb because they're all turds. You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot to overcome.
Yeah, very
to get
self-absorbed.
To. Yeah. It doesn't take too long. And
Yeah, the lead blonde who just never has a redeeming moment. She's just a nasty bitch through the whole thing.
Yeah,
So
Kelly.
self-absorbed. I really liked her a lot, and the movie gets really meta because they're not playing themselves, but there's moments where she's basically referencing herself as an actress. And there's like a line in there about how she was in the number one horror movie of 2017, which is a reference to 47 Meters Down, which is a movie that she was in. And then she also makes a reference later on in the film, too, about how she had to train in scuba diving and thought she was a real scuba diver for a minute. And I'm like, oh, that's another reference to 47 Meters Down. So, and the fact that it was like extremely subtle and you really had to pick up on that to get it, and it wasn't like a forced fed little inside joke or anything. So yeah,
Kind of like how.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I kind of like how that one guy is ragging on the guy who trains with that acting coach, like Leslie, somebody or other.
Yeah,
He just goes, Dean Cundy. He shot Halloween, Jurassic Park. It's like, you don't know who the fuck that guy is. It's just like, what the fuck is this lady teaching you? You know,
which
even Dean Cundy gets a tip of the cap too.
Yeah, and that's the one character in the movie, the acting coach, who is actually just playing herself. That is that actual actress.
And the dog was shaking like a motherfucker.
Cool. I'm glad you guys have seen it and thought it was pretty cool too, because that's my number 3. But now we're down to number 2.
oh my gosh,
This is it's getting
real.
It's getting real. I'm on the edge of my seat. Dustin, what's your number 2?
My number 2, we've already talked about it, so spoiler. That I had a blast watching this again. I had a blast watching a lot of these, but this one more so because we watched it with a bunch of friends. VHS 94.
Nice.
I thought it was almost perfect, and I think if it would have had a better wraparound story, I'm not sure it would even still top it to my number 1. But I just had so much fun watching this movie because, like Tad said earlier, it's a return to form for VHS because, you know, when the first one came out, you know, everybody involved with that one was such a sneaky hit in a way. I don't think anybody really anticipated it to be as popular as it was supposed to be, or what people thought it would be. And then I didn't even really like the first one that much, and then like VHS 2 came out, and that one blew me away. And I was sold on the entire series. I love part 2. I got this great part 2 box set that comes with the Blu-ray and a VHS copy of the movie for part 2.
Oh,
cool.
It is so cool.
Nice.
And watching that on VHS was, again, with friends, was awesome. And then obviously Viral came out, and I was just like, okay, well, they're never going to make another one of these ever. And I was really thinking that. And then I saw 94. I'm like, oh, and I saw a couple screenshots. I'm like, that looks okay. All right, well, we'll check it out. And of course, you got Shudder, so we can watch it. And I think the only story that it's just the wraparound story. Every little story in the movie is great. I loved the Ratma or however you say that. The funeral home scene. This should be an example on how to build tension.
Yeah.
Like used in classes, because it does such a good job of, with power outages, oncoming storm, you're in a funeral home, there's a dead body in the room, there's nobody there, you're by yourself. It's got all the perfect elements there that is so scary, like the tension building, and then the payoff is perfect. Like that to me is an excellent story. I loved the end story too, because that seemed like some real, like fucking, like somebody's filmed this shit and they really found these monster vampire type figures and are trying to turn them into weapons.
them.
Yeah, like that was just, I thought every story in it was so cool, and I only hope they release more and I hope they release this one on VHS too.
You
I
need
mean, they just
It's a good one.
if they can stick with it, if a lot of people watched it, I'm not sure how streaming works in revenue for Shudder, but hopefully there was enough views to warrant continuing on to something else.
If they made it past viral, they have to be able to.
Yes,
Yeah.
if you can,
We're in
get
redemption
past that.
territory now.
Yeah.
For sure. Jason, you're up.
Number 2. Oh my gosh. Well, it's really exciting because this one hasn't been talked about yet. And that's weird, but
Oh, that's cool.
but kind of cool. And I'm just going to say it now. If I hear the word, I'm going to stop talking about it. But this movie is directed by my boy, M. Night. It's old.
Oh,
Sweet.
I fucking loved it. It was great. I think everyone probably saw a trailer, family, tropical holiday on a secluded beach, and then they just start getting older and shit goes crazy. And yeah, it's really, I loved it because it's just that I almost slipped up and said the T word, but
Is that your trigger word?
but a mystery. But it was the mystery of it all, just trying to figure it out. And I liked where where it went, and had a nice, fun little message, and it was just so great seeing M. Night back in the director chair, and I loved it. I loved it.
I too am a big M. Night fan. The only reason why it hasn't been mentioned by me at all because I didn't get to see it yet.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
I think Dustin was the
Bummed.
only other one. So
it made my top 21.
all right,
Cool.
Yep.
Cool. Sweet. So where are we at? Tad. Oh wait.
This one,
Tad.
is it me? Yeah. So number 2, no surprise. I think it's been on most lists already. Psycho Gorman.
Number 2.
Wow.
Yeah,
nice.
this is
Hunky boy.
so much fun, man. Like, laughed a whole lot. It's so stupid. It's so hilarious. It's so unique. Nothing else like it. I just, this is one that will be, a repeat watch, and one that you show your friends. Just that kind of fun group watch movie, I would say.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Totally.
Andy.
Frig off.
Andy, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is. I don't think any of you guys watched it, and I really wish you would have because I want to talk to you about it. It's called Bloody Hell.
Oh.
Oh, I had that on my watch list. I could not fit it in.
And basically, it's about this guy. He spent 8 years, I believe, in prison, but it was because he thwarted a bank robbery because he's a trained by the military. He's a badass, but he's kind of got a little bit of a screw loose because he can actually see his conscience. He can see his conscience, so it's like it actually has it takes physical frame. And he accidentally, while he thwarts this bank robbery, he's a hero, but he accidentally shoots somebody during the process of it, accidentally. And he kills all the bad guys. So he spends 8 years in prison, and when he's there, he throws a dart at a map, and he just wants to leave the US. He wants to start over. He ends up in Finland. So immediately when he gets to Finland, he's drugged and he's kidnapped, and he winds up in this basement. So his life is shitty. But when he wakes up, he's hanging by his arms in this basement. He looks down, and half of his leg is missing.
Yeah.
And he wants to scream, and then a hand slaps over his mouth, and it's his consciousness. He's just like, shut the fuck up! Shut up! And he's just like, we gotta think of something, man. And it's like his conscious is like looking around this room, and he starts to cry, and then his conscious comes over there and says, stop that! That's not going to do any fucking good. We got to get the fuck out of here, So I mean, it's actually pretty damn funny. It's almost like the European backpacking version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, only funnier, because this family is actually cannibals, and they're going to slowly eat him, and they're just going to carve off whatever they want. If he dies, he just dies hanging there. And it turns out one of the family members is like this girl who's like never really wanted to be part of this. She kind of saw like the error of her ways, and she's going to try to help him out, but they're really kind of onto her. And randomly you hear like this loud thumping throughout the house. So and there's this cage where this thing is kept, so it's like the big bruiser, Hills Have Eyes version of this family that they have to keep feeding. But so this guy and his conscience, basically have to get him and this girl, this Finnish girl that he just met, out of this house. And it's a hell of a lot of fun. I watched it very early during this year, and I really wish you guys would have seen it, because I think you guys would have a really fun time with this. I mean, it's just like, and the conscience is like hilarious. Like when things go wrong, he'll like throw temper tantrums and shit. He's just like, fuck, what the fuck are we gonna do? And like during the bank robbery, for instance, I'll spoil a little part. Like the conscience is talking to him, and you can see him like start grinning, and people are looking at him like, what the fuck is with this guy? And his conscience is just like, dude, shoot him in the dick. You should totally shoot him in the dick, But yes, guys, Bloody Hell is my number 2, and you guys
Awesome.
need to see this damn movie. It's very, very good.
Definitely keep an eye out.
You
for
sold
that.
me for sure. Awesome. Well, here I go. Number 2. My number 2. It's been brought up, but I think only one other time. My number 2, my second favorite movie of 2021, was Vicious Fun.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, I freaking love this from beginning to end, man. I I mentioned before that my favorite stuff was the support group circle scenes, but even after that, I thought it was a fun ride, and just love all the homages, and it was hilarious as hell. And I thought everybody was great, but the lead kid, who had to carry this thing, did an amazing job. And yeah, never even seen this kid before, but. Put David Koechner in a movie and I'm there, because I love that guy. I'll watch him in anything. So yeah, that is my number 2 for sure. Vicious Fun was very, very fun.
Viciously fun.
Don't you like in that movie how the magazine? Well, I think it was called Vicious Fanatic, maybe, but like its cover framework was like that of Fango.
Oh, it
like,
straight up was Fango. Like it almost like they took like an old Fango and photoshopped their title of their magazine on top of it.
Right. They had the film reel on the side with the screenshots and
Yep.
yeah.
I think one of the things that Mike is going to take away from this is that like it's going to be a question on Insane's Games at some point. Like, what is the faux movie in
Right.
Vicious Fun?
Oh.
Like, I'm going to be able to say Taxi Cab Driller.
Yep. Well, not now. You ruined it. But
You're welcome.
I'll give it a year when you have forgotten. Okay, this is it, gang. We are to the number 1.
Oh.
Our
boy.
favorite
All
movies
this
of
work.
2021. This is it. Oh, so drum roll here.
Yep, I'll fill that in later.
Oh, okay.
That's good. That's perfect.
And the one I'm dying to find out, Dustin, what is your number 1?
This should be pretty obvious.
Yep.
Like this should have been like duh from right on the start. But I love this movie. Got misty eyed at the end.
Yep.
I just had
there we
a
go.
fucking blast watching this movie with Ghostbusters Afterlife. Holy cow. Like they made this for me and they made this for like fans,
Yep.
which there is a lot of fan service. And, we can go back to talking about the punching bag we talked about in the last episode with Malignant and Halloween Kills.
Yeah.
But this movie got beat the fuck up and the
dumb.
reviews. And
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Yeah.
and it's like, oh, the fan service, it's blatantly in your face. And it's really not. if you're a fan and you see something like the glove compartment opening up and the Twinkie falling out, that's pretty insignificant if you're new to the series. But as us, we watch it. We know that Egon likes Twinkies. So the fuck what? Like, who cares? Like I'm confused at anybody saying, "Hey, a movie has too much fan service."
And you know
I don't get
Twinkies
that.
From 1984, they got a long shelf life.
Yeah, right. That too. Yeah. I mean, I just don't get that. And again, that was the punching bag item for this movie. It was like too much fan service, too much fan service. And I think it's there, and it is obvious if you are a fan, but I don't think there can be too much if you're a fan of the series. I don't get that. Like, we got Marvel movies here that are always sneaking in comic book stories. You know, a lot of that fan service in there, stuff that I'll go watch a YouTube video after watching a Marvel movie, and they'll be like, "Well, this is from here, here, and this, and this, and this. This is from this episode, this here and here. Look at all this great stuff that they mixed together, and they made this awesome stew." And you know, there isn't a lot of Ghostbusters out there. You know, there's a couple movies and comic book series and a cartoon. You know, so they did, I thought, a great professional job without alienating the newer audience to make it still work. And it was everything that it needed to be. And I thought it was classy in how it kind of ended. And not overstepping their bounds, not to give too much away, to the point where it could become cringy. But I've read reviews where people said the entire end was nothing but cringe. But then
come on.
Then I don't think you're a fan.
Right.
Like, why are you watching the movie?
Right.
Why are you? It's a fan
I know.
franchise. How do you not service a fan
Right.
franchise?
Exactly.
Fuck.
Ghostbusters does not exist without us. It has continued on for years because of us. And that's the only reason. Like, you couldn't get those four guys, at the time, to even get in the same room together. And somehow they still keep doing it, and they get them together somehow. And to be in these movies or be in these games, to lend their voices or their images, they still keep doing it because of us, So fan service has got to be there. You don't make these movies without a fan service. So that was the punching bag. That's what everybody gravitated towards when it came out, and it just got beat up. And I'm really glad that I didn't pay attention to it beforehand because I didn't want to know. But just watching it, man, it was a great theater experience. We did LDX in Burlington, and massive sound system. And just I like hearing all the sounds and
they're there,
seeing everything, and it was just the biggest fan service for this movie, had they done it, would to be have had it in New York. And guess what?
They
don't do that.
No.
They don't do that. So I mean, it's not all there.
There wasn't enough fan service. I wanted to see. I wanted to see Rick. I wanted to see Rick Moranis.
Yes, same. Yeah. I did too. I wanted to see Louis Tully, but he's not there, and that's totally fine. I mean, there was a lot of things that I would have loved to have seen, but they did such a good job. And it is probably like beat wise, very similar to the first Ghostbusters, but I think that's how you do a good reboot. I liked the reboot Star Wars: The Force Awakens,
Me too.
Even though it is kind of beat for beat A New Hope. But I think that's what you have to do. But this one I think is special to where it's different enough, to where it's still good to us who've seen the original so many times. And I think for a new generation coming up, I think is great as well, just because of the characters that they picked. The kids weren't overly annoying, and one of the biggest criticisms that I see, sorry if I'm rambling on here, it's just like Stranger Things. I don't know how many fucking times I read that. Poor Finn Wolfhard. I swear to God, wherever he goes now is going to be associated with Stranger Things. And if you're listening to this right now, it is not even fucking close to that. Not even close. Just because he's in it doesn't mean that it's Stranger Things. I don't know.
Indiana Jones is just like Star Wars because Harrison Ford's in it.
Right.
Fuck out of here.
I don't know. I'm rambling on too long. I'm sorry. That Ghostbusters Afterlife was incredibly special to me, and I just thought it was made for us, and it also made for a new generation at the same time, without overstepping any bounds and still being classy.
Man, you don't have to keep apologizing for going on, man.
No.
I know how much Ghostbusters means to you. And when I brought it up earlier and you were quiet as a cricket, I was like a little nervous. I was a little nervous. I'm like, oh crap, he didn't like it. He's not saying shit. But so I'm glad to hear that you, and that's great. I'm glad to hear that, that you liked it, because I thought it was freaking awesome. And I just want to know, with these haters, where's the line between fan service and continuing the world that you love so much?
You say you love so much.
Yeah, because to me, these little fan service things, these nods, is just an extension of this world. It's like you said, Egon likes Twinkies, so it would make sense there'd probably be a Twinkie falling out of the glove compartment, or seeing the spores and mold collection.
Fungus and mold.
Yeah. I'm not
fungus and mold. Yeah.
I'm not going to let that go. That one's my favorite. But so it just, to me, that's just carrying on this world. So where's that line for them? It was like if that none of that stuff was there, if they just did this whole movie based on just the kids. Not have what happens in the third act happen. No connections to any of the original Ghostbusters. Nothing about Egon, nothing like that. Those same people would hate it for not being their Ghostbusters.
It's a double-edged sword, and you can't win with a series this old.
And how freaking awesome did Gozer look? I thought it was an amazing update to the costume, but still staying true to the original look. I thought, I freaking love Gozer.
I love Ivo Shandor's part, because there's some lore behind that too. Ivo Shandor was the guy in the glass case at the end.
Yeah, played by J.K. Rowlands of all.
Yes,
which is awesome.
Good old Just Kidding Simmons, getting split in two, which was unexpected.
Oh,
man. Yeah, that ties to. I mean. Yeah, like his character's name is mentioned, I think, in the first movie as the architect of the building, right?
Yes.
But that's extended in the video game, correct?
It is, and that's what his character looks like in the video game.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
But he's always trying to be with Gozer, to rule side by side. But Gozer does not want anything to do with him, because Gozer's a god. It's not a human or a being. It is what it is. So it's just like there is no Ivo Shandor. It's only Gozer. So I thought that was an amazing part. I loved it. I loved it. I don't know how you guys all felt.
That's great. So glad that you did, knowing how much of a Ghostbusters fan you are. I loved it too. I cried like 3 times. 3 different times
at least.
All right, awesome. So next is Jason. Oh my gosh, Jason, what could it possibly be? What is your number 1?
Any guesses? I'll tell you what. Let's keep this Ghostbusters Afterlife train rolling.
Shit,
no way.
Son.
How fucking great was McKenna Grace? She was incredible. It's her movie, right? But
yeah.
You just the lead
from the first second. You're like, oh, she's related to Egon.
Yep.
And she was so goddamn great. Her jokes are even better than Mike's. And
hey,
Jason Reitman just pulled off it was perfect for him to do it, and it was so brilliant and perfect and everything it needed to be. I'm so happy that this is the first time I'm not happy about learning about the hate on the internet. I guess all the circles I'm hearing and listening and haven't really said any of that. So this is new to me that people didn't like it, because I I assumed everyone did, but
Well, yeah, the box office proves, I mean, during a pandemic that people do like it. I mean, it's
Yeah.
making money. Number one, like 3 weeks in a row for.
oh, this movie is so beautiful. The way it was shot. When Ecto's fucking going through the fields, I mean, I get how goosebumps. Just how exciting is that? I think it's so well written. It's incredible. And then, from the Egon stuff in the beginning, you're like, oh my God, Egon's in this. This is really happening. And it's starting with Egon. No one expected that at all. No one knew that was coming. And I mean, it was so sad when he died, but then the PKE went up and you're just like, oh fuck, it is on, man. Oh my gosh. And I loved the relationship with the mom and Egon and the mom and the kids, and she was great. And I know they got everyone kind of scared that it was going to be Paul Rudd's movie, but it really wasn't. And
Right, yeah.
he was
fine.
He was great. He's Paul Rudd, hilarious, awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. What did he say when he finally got out of the shell there? It's like, my hands are tired. My paws are running around. I can't remember what he said.
I care. Yeah.
He was so great. He was so great. The little marshmallow dudes. I'm gonna love everything about this movie.
Yeah.
The music, the sounds when they fire up the proton pack, and I'm sure in your theater you saw it, and you probably just that hum.
It happens like
to-
first thing. Like
You had to lose
when
your shit.
when she takes it out in the field
Oh, my
and tests it, like
God.
all of that is just I love so much of that. Like it was goosebumps the entire time.
Oh.
Like I couldn't help it. Like it was just happening.
And podcast, man, how funny is that little shit?
Yeah.
He is awesome.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a star. I'll just say it now. He was amazing.
Yeah, he's quick-witted for sure.
Yeah, man. That's my number one. I fucking loved it. It's so
Nice.
great. So great. I was nervous about this one counting as horror, but I'm like, Dustin's going to be here. I know we're going to talk about it. I know I'm safe on having it on my list. Oh yeah. So good.
Okay, Tad, you're up. What's your number one?
What's it going to be? I can't
Man.
decide.
No, this is an interesting one because it hasn't been mentioned.
Oh.
One I just watched last night.
That's bullshit. You can't sneak one in like that and not tell
I-
us.
Well, it's one I was anticipating and looking for, and finally just spent the money, watched it,
Scanning through your list here. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and it's The Night House. I think Dustin might be the only other one that watched it.
Yep.
Yeah, it made my top 21 for sure.
This was really
Damn, the night.
dark and moody, and I just loved it. Some moments that really made me jump. Story's pretty simple. This woman's husband commits suicide. She, out of the blue, she doesn't know why, so she starts looking for clues and starts finding out he had this night house, and she's finding pictures of girls that look just like her on his phone, but they're not her, and she's getting mysterious text messages, and she's having like sleep paralysis, you think, and there's just a lot of sort of mystery to it, and something to just about like her performance. I had to look up the lead actress's name, but it's directed by David Bruckner. I thought the lead performance was really, really good. It is Rebecca Hall, and she's really both sort of sarcastic, but also like she just takes control of this movie. And it has a very small cast. It's mostly her. And then you have a few other supporters. Her friend, Claire, played by Sarah Goldberg. And then her neighbor, Mel, played by Vondi Curtis Hall. And it was just, I don't know, something about it. It was like no nonsense. Very dark, very disturbing. Really well made, beautiful film. I don't know what it was about it that made it number one. But just so cool.
Her performance is excellent in it. She plays like the cynical widow, the depressed. I mean, it's just so sad at some parts, but she's so believable in that role that you kind of are her when you're watching.
Yeah,
and you're just like you kind of see it through her eyes. It's really good. I I think for me, it wasn't higher up on my list was because I don't know how much horror it was, but now that you're explaining it, like, yeah, there was quite a bit of spookiness in it. And maybe it should have been higher, but yeah, I agree with everything you said.
Excellent. Okay, Andy, this is it. What's your number one?
Okay. I watched this earlier in the year, and this kind of makes me nervous, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it's on nobody's list. But to be it's so good, I don't know how many else. I know Tad's watched it, but my number one is Hunted.
Mm-hmm.
I love these kind of movies where obviously it's a very small cast, but it's this girl, she meets this guy at a bar, and at work she's kind of like a pushover where she, and she even talks about it with her brother, and brother's just like, you need to be more assertive and blah blah blah. But anyway, she meets this guy at the bar and she thinks he's kind of charming, but basically she realizes she's pretty much on a date with a psychopath, and him and this other guy, his accomplice, are basically out to basically pretty much rape her and film it and make a snuff film out of it. But she gets away, and basically she only has the forest to, hide, or, she uses sticks and whatnot, and, try to get away from these guys. And she's completely terrified. But there comes a point in this film where she just absolutely fucking snaps, where she is so tired of being bullied and pushed around and just, psychologically played with. She's ready to feed this fucking guy his own eyeballs, dude. She just completely loses her shit. Like, there's like photos of her just like in the promos. It just shows her like with, screaming. And it's that says Hunted, only the savage survive. And it's basically the part where she loses it. I mean, they fight through like the forest, she's like going after him. She just flat doesn't give a shit whether she lives or dies anymore at this point, because she's just absolutely had it with this guy and his bullshit. And they fight their way back into like a housing complex, and it looks like a full-fledged like Jackie Chan, no, not that flashy, but like they're breaking shit. I mean, she's hitting him over the head with plates and furniture. I mean, it's just, she goes all out. And I love these kind of movies because they're so primal and visceral. And it's just like, it's a one-on-one, and it's somebody's gonna fall. Maybe it just kind of takes me back to my love of Predator and stuff like that. But I had one on my list last year. I can't remember the name of it. It was very similar to this movie, and it was on my list too. But I love the aesthetic of these kinds of movies. And did anybody else see this besides Tad and I?
No.
I watched this when it first came out. It feels like it was like the very beginning of the year on Shudder. It was awesome.
Yeah. And I really, really like this movie. So yeah, that's my number one.
Awesome.
Okay. It's down to me.
Oh man.
My number one.
What's it gonna be?
I kind of feel bad. I feel like this is going to be anticlimactic because I'm pretty sure every single one of you could probably guess what my number one is.
It's not Baby Oopsie.
No, it's not.
I saw that on the list. I'm like, what the fuck?
What the fuck did they watch now?
I went and looked at the picture on that one. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
I can walk, I can talk, I can even shit my pants.
Yeah, it's a full moon spinoff of Demonic Toys.
Oh,
Baby
no.
Oopsie from Demonic Toys has his own movie.
Boy.
And it's number one.
Yeah. Yay. Anybody want to take a real guess?
Oh,
I'm shocked.
the amusement park.
No, and I'll explain why in honorable mentions. My number one is Psycho Gourmet.
Yeah. Should have known.
Come on. No, yeah, this would be a movie I would make That's, definitely enough said. Why it would be number one. I don't think there's any decisions made in this movie that I wasn't sitting there going like, yep, I'd do that.
That's awesome.
That's
Approved.
the super awesome creature monster designs of all these aliens and whatnots, and just so Power Rangery. It's just so awesome. Just an adult gory Power Rangers movie. I liked the kids. I feel like the girl is a bit over the top, but I think I just really feel like every decision, even if you don't think their performances are very good, I think it's all intentional, because it's just the whole movie is also not only playing on the whole Power Rangers thing that keeps getting brought up, but it's also that whole like fish out of water family film from the 80s kind of thing, where the kids stumble across this creature that doesn't belong in its environment, and trying to, and the hilarity ensues, like a Mac and Me or an E.T. or whatever. Only this,
You just put Mac and Me before E.T. That's great.
wouldn't you?
It kind of reminded me of the Gate. It reminded me of the Gate, to tell you the truth,
yeah,
when it first started.
Yep.
So just this whole like alien, and not in his environment, but instead of it, where the kids are playing it off like this is, like a normal thing, and the actual alien's this evil monster that just wants to do nothing but kill these kids that control him. And I love the ending on how, like, Psycho Gorman wins, and he basically is destroying the world, but it's supposed to be heartfelt and uplifting that the family made this decision to help Psycho Gorman. It's just, oh man.
All based on a game of dodgeball, too.
Yes. So yeah, it's definitely, this movie was made for me. It's definitely Psycho Gorman is my number one.
Awesome.
So
Yeah.
there you have it, folks. That's our top 10 films of 2021. We're going to do some honorable mentions, but I think before we do that, maybe we should take a quick break. We've been talking nonstop forever. So I think you need to hear a promo for our podcast network. It's called the Prescribed Films Podcast Network. Take a listen to that. Check out all the amazing shows on our network at thepfpn.com. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal: providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
We are back, and we just got done going over our top 10 favorite films of 2021, but we watched a lot of freaking movies.
Yes,
and
we did.
we only had 10 spots, so I'm pretty sure there's some other great films out there that you all out there need to see based on our awesome recommendations. So we're going to do some honorable mentions. Jason, what were you thinking?
Oh God.
What just almost made your list?
The real close ones for me, Slacks just kind of missed a little. The one that was definitely the definite number 11 on my list was Synchronic.
Yeah, that's on mine.
Fuck, man, that movie's so good. Benson and Moorhead, I just love that team. I love all the films they're doing, their writing, their acting. I'm a huge fan of them. Oh gosh, I'm scrolling. Anybody can jump in. I don't know.
I'll throw a couple of mine out there. I won't bring up ones that weren't on my list, but were already talked about because, well, they were already talked about.
Yep.
Stuff like the Fear Street trilogy and whatnot. Did just mention Amusement Park before the break, and yes, it's a George Romero movie. I love it. But it didn't make my list. I kept it off the list because Is it 2021? Is it
Right.
1976? I
Right.
don't know. Is it a horror movie? Is it not a movie? Is it a movie?
Right.
Yeah.
So I just left it off the list, And it's not Romero's best film, but it's cool for what it is, because it's not meant to be like one of his, feature film horror movies or what have you. So that's why I left it off. Another one I had, I don't care what anybody says, I freaking loved Willy's Wonderland. I thought it was great. Have you guys seen the trailer for the next Nicolas Cage movie that's coming out where he's playing
plays himself,
Yes.
Yeah.
Can't
Looks
wait
great.
for that. Yeah. That looks awesome. And then the last one I'll also bring up a movie that I also really like, but didn't quite make the list, The Stylist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jill's movie. Really enjoyed it. Visually and the storyline and the performances, everything was great. Dustin, do you have any honorable mentions?
I got plenty. I liked Black Friday, watched it on Black Friday, had a lot of fun just being in the moment and watching that. Really silly. Love Bruce Campbell. Oxygen on Netflix, about this lady stuck in a pod, like a weird thing. Really cool. Should check it out. Don't want to spoil it. Come True was cool. Watched this movie last night called A Classic Horror Story.
I started it.
The trailer looked cool. I almost started it a few times.
Cool enough, yeah, but not in my top 10. Lucky was good. Escape Room 2 was good. Yeah. I mean, I've got more, but I don't want to steal them all.
Andy, what about you?
I of course really enjoyed Slacks. I enjoyed Untitled Horror Movie. Dustin mentioned Lucky. I thought like the premise of that was very interesting.
Yeah.
I even really liked Superhost, which was another Barbara Crampton movie.
I saw it too. It wasn't bad. I just found
I thought it was okay.
girl
I thought it
kind
was
of
okay.
annoying, but
Well, I think she was just supposed to be. I think she was supposed to be acting batshit crazy.
oh
but
sure,
she
it just got
she
a
was-
little off-putting after a while.
Yeah. And I can't go this episode without mentioning Titan, which is the most
Yep.
bizarre damn movie, other than probably Lamb. In this case,
Be a great
just-
double feature.
Yeah, what's
Wow.
up with that? Like, is that like two different movies mashed together? Like, hey, I got an idea about a woman who has sex with a vehicle and is pregnant by it, and then I've also got a story about a woman who's a serial killer. Did like they just mash these together?
Yeah, it sort of just takes a turn halfway through and is like goes to a completely different movie.
I'm definitely
Yeah,
watching
so
it now.
bizarre.
It reminds me of I think I mentioned this before on the podcast, like this documentary called Imposter, where this French boy took this identity of a missing American kid, and the family took him back in thinking that he was their actual son.
Oh boy.
And it's a crazy damn documentary. It's a true story, but the only reason why they think that they took this kid in because they think that the American family actually killed their son.
Oh.
So they had to take him in because knowing full well that this wasn't the actual boy, but this boy, would impersonate,
Sure.
missing kids. He did it all the time, but he had no idea what he was stepping into in this case. So, I mean, it's a crazy story. And this is exactly what this girl did in this movie while she was a car pregnant serial killer, which is, I mean, it's like I said, I mean, it's just saying that alone is, but the thing is, the movie was really, really well made and it was well done, but it was just bizarre.
She's lactating oil, you guys.
Why didn't you tell me?
Ted,
Fucks
That
a
would
fire-
be lactating.
She fucks a fire truck too, so
Yeah, she does.
There's a car with hydraulics bouncing up
What are
and
you
down.
guys watching?
it straps herself in with the seatbelts. Yeah,
Yeah.
but later she hooks up with a fire truck, and
Spoilers. Oh, and spoilers. She hooks up with spoilers. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It might be the gear shift. We really don't know. I'm just saying.
Tad, honorable mentions.
I have a few that haven't been mentioned. One that was at my number 10 right up until we hit record, and it was back and forth on this one. Coming Home in the Dark. Did anyone else watch this?
Nope.
No.
Watched this on Netflix last night, and this is a fucking dark, sad movie. This family, I don't know what country this was made in. It looks sort of maybe British, I'm guessing, or Australian or something. I don't know. But they're having a nice family picnic. It's mom, dad, and the 2 teenage boys. They're sitting in a nice open field enjoying their food. And these 2 guys just show up and start some shit with them. And it gets worse and worse and worse throughout the movie. And they like take them captive, and it's a nightmare. It is a literal nightmare. Not 1 ounce of like joy in this movie. It was fucked, totally fucked. It's on Netflix. It's like an hour and a half long, and it is an experience. And the other one that I really liked that came close was My Heart Can't Beat Unless You Tell It To. And this is interesting. It's a brother and sister live together with their little brother, and they sort of have to keep him in the house away from other kids and things. And I this is not really a spoiler because it's pretty much the plot, and you find out right away. But their little brother's a vampire, but not in the sense of like he goes out and bites people type of vampire. But it's like we have to find ways to feed him blood every day, and he's becoming a burden. And it's almost like the way it's played is very sad, and it's like he's this little brother is like he depends on them, and it's almost like he doesn't realize he's a vampire. He just knows that he has to drink blood or he gets sick. So he's not aggressive. He just wants to be a normal boy and go out and play with the neighborhood kids, and they are like, you can't go outside when it's light out. You can't go see friends. And it's just like, it seemed like something A24 would put out because it's very quiet and brooding, but it's a very different take on the vampire. It's like the opposite of Jacob's Wife. It's like the anti-vampire movie. It is a sad and more of a character. Like, it's almost not horror in the way. I mean, outside of them being vampires, it's more of like a family drama. You could almost replace it with like another illness. They treat the vampire, like him being a vampire, as like a almost like having cancer or something, where it's like, he just wants to be normal and he can't.
Boy,
I noticed the new Conjuring didn't make it on anyone's list.
Nope.
it wasn't very good.
Aw. How was Wrong Turn, Dustin?
Oh, my review of that is like, if they hold on 1 second here, because I did write a short review. Oh, this was like if they remade Tucker and Dale versus Evil, but took out Tucker and Dale and left in the crazy college kids. Then you get to watch Matthew Modine stumble around with his Joe Biden looking ass. That's all.
I was hoping you'd say, "Here's my review." Wrong turd.
Yeah, yes. That one's better. I should have took that down a little bit. No, it was terrible. Wrong Turn. I love the original Wrong Turn.
Sure.
Yeah.
And this is just so.
Second one ain't bad either.
They don't need to name this Wrong Turn. Like, they could name it something completely different. It's its own different story. I'm not sure why they did name it Wrong Turn. It's not a reboot. It's not a a remake. It's just a different movie with the name Wrong Turn. I don't get it.
It's not like that brand identity is huge right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay.
I mean, I wanted to ask if there are any more turds, but I'm like, I don't want to get too negative, I guess. But I don't. It's not that any. I guess that one sounded kind of bad, but I can't say I really watched a lot that wasn't good.
Yeah, actually,
like
I guess I can
bad.
say that. I can't think of anything that I thought was bad. It's definitely things that I watched that I didn't like. That's just personal.
I thought
reasons.
Boys from County Hell had like this awesome potential for like this vampire story. It starts out so gruesome, and I just like the idea of how powerful this vampire is in the story. Like it gets close to people and their blood just starts coming out of their orifices.
Whoa.
Like
Yeah.
that's such a cool idea, and I think it was just poorly executed. I think it could have been really great, and it just didn't get there.
I mean, Baby Oopsie's bad, but
Okay,
I still
thanks.
thought it was awesome. I still loved it. That was
And you
great.
probably liked Virus Shark and
Didn't finish Fire Shark. Maybe
That's-
that would
you've
be
seen
the
enough.
bad list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
what
Yeah,
about
definitely saw
what was that other shark one?
Great White.
was
That's
that?
on Netflix, I think. It wasn't too bad. It was all right. It's not it's not a crappy sci-fi channel CGI shark movie.
Okay.
It might be in the category of stuff like 47 meters below and stuff. But at the same time, it's nothing to write home about. It's just a nice little shark movie. Little people trapped in a raft kind of thing.
I thought it was a Proud Boys documentary.
Oh boy!
Hold
Did
on.
anyone watch The Resort?
There it is. Sorry, I took too long on that.
I don't think I
didn't
did.
get to that one.
I think I did.
It might be like Birdemic level acting.
Oh,
Like
no, that's
Yeah.
impossible.
it's pretty darn
I
close.
did
That
watch
good,
that.
huh?
Yes. Like it might be the worst movie of the year. Like it's almost worth the watch because there's some pretty good gore in it, but like it's terrible. Like it's really bad.
Oh yeah, that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I
So you
remember
did
watching
see it?
that. I did. Mm-hmm.
Oh my.
Bloodthirsty sounded really cool on paper, and it did not live up to its hype. It was like a lesbian pop star has to write her sophomore album, so she moves in with like a big name producer.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah, and she like moves in with a big name producer who's sort of like notorious for his methods of getting like good music out of musicians, and turns out like he turns them into vampires, and it was sort of like or not vampires, werewolves, and sounded really cool. Did not execute as well.
Mm.
It felt like one of those episodes of like Blumhouse Into the Dark. Like it should have been a shorter and maybe an episode of Creepshow or something. It just wasn't great.
Speaking of
Yeah.
werewolves,
Swear
one I
wolves.
wanted to see that I
Oh.
didn't get to see, but I want to know what you guys think. Werewolves Within. How was that?
Oh,
Didn't love it.
yeah, man, I love what's his name who directed it. Last year he made my second top favorite movie, which was Scare Me.
Yeah,
And I was so pumped for Werewolves Within, and it's just doesn't work. I don't know, like, and I don't think that's necessarily like, that's my opinion. I think that's just the way that it is. Like, it's just not. It doesn't commit to the funny, and it doesn't commit to the horror, and it like stands this like middle ground. And some people are excellent, and some people are not, and it's just I don't know. It spends too much time trying to figure out what it wants to be. By that time it figures it out, it's over. So I mean, I don't know.
that's a
I was
bummer.
really bummed about that one.
Yeah, that's one I was really looking forward to.
It was a bit of a trudge for me to get through. I thought it was not as good as I had hoped.
Yeah.
Because I'm right there with you. I freaking loved Scare Me.
How good was Chucky TV
Great.
show?
Loved it. So cool.
So
Tie in all the
good.
old every movie. Yeah, is represented. So good.
I'm gonna be binging that this
Good.
vacation. So
Yeah, I need to do.
Did you like Midnight Mass, Dustin? I saw you.
Man, I liked it. But I think it's Mike Flanagan. Is
Yep.
that? Yeah. I think it's his weakest story. But I did like it. I don't like religious type stuff, and
It's very heavy-handed in that.
It is, and there's a lot of sermons, and the sermons in it are real sermons type stuff, and they're really reading stuff, and it just reminds me of being in church, and I just didn't like it, and I just there's a couple of things in there I had some issues with, but I love everything he's done, and I like this. I just think it's his weakest out of everything he's done.
Cool. Well, I think that should just about wrap it up.
What a year!
Yeah. That's it. That's the whole year summed up for you guys, 2021. There you go. So that concludes this epic two-parter episode of Attack of the Killer podcast. Our favorites from 2021.
We can now go watch normal movies
Yeah,
again.
I can go back and
That's
watch
how I
the
kind of feel about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do too. Yeah, I can watch whatever I want now.
It is true. There's like so many movies I've been like, oh, I want to watch this.
You feel so guilty if you
Yeah.
watch something and it's not horror. Like, oh, I should really be watching this.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for listening. And
Thanks, Dustin, for coming on this journey once again.
Thanks for having me.
love having
Thanks
you
to
back,
Andy
buddy.
for staying up past his bedtime.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I thought
I
he
have
left and went to
tomorrow
bed.
off. I'm
Oh.
good to go.
Hot
Oh,
dang! Let's
lucky.
do a three-parter.
No,
Oh,
because I do have to work tomorrow.
oh, okay.
Me too.
All right. So
Suckers.
with what?
Suckers.
Yeah. All right. So thanks everybody for listening. Hope everybody had a good 2021. And we look forward to chatting with you guys more in 2022. So we'll talk to you on the next episode of Attack of the Killer podcast. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Oh no, could this be the end of? Attack of the Killer